Mr. Arthur Rhodes, tell us a crazy story.
Crazy story while in Angola.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess when I was young, my first time going to Angola was in the 70s, 74. And when I went to the dorm, it kind of alarmed me because the dorm I went to was called House of Sin.
House of Sin?
Yeah, on a door, on a door in boxcar letters. It had House of Sin, and I said, man, where I got to. And at that time, there was no free man in the dorm, just one free man on the outside who came in about every hour to count. But I said, what I done gotten to. So anything you were big and bad enough to do, you did
can
it.
do.
Yeah.
You can do it. But one of the major things that really disturbed me, I was walking the child. They called child, and I was walking the child, and somebody got stabbed. You know, this was during this real bloody time.
That's when they called it Bloody Angola.
Yeah, and somebody got stabbed, and we were walking to eat. And I'm young. I just got there. I don't know much about this kind of stuff. And they were running with the guy, pushing him on the stretcher.
Mm-hmm.
And there are two guys behind me. They say that's so-and-so. They should have been killed him. You know? He said, I would just wish they got some meat in the beans. And I thought, like, wow, there's a man bleeding from all over, and you thinking about some meat
in the beans.
Yeah. But that really just, as a young guy, I'm like, man.
What I done got myself into.
what I done got myself into. I'm not ready for this guy so insensitive about a man bleeding to death, and the guy ultimately died.
Oh, damn.
You know, but again, they were just worried about
Getting some meat in the beans, like, yeah.
Yeah, I heard, and I don't know how long ago, during that time, did they have people that they called khaki bags?
No, during that time, they had got rid of khaki backs in 1972.
You want to tell people what that was?
That was guys. I wasn't there when that
Right,
was happening,
right.
but that was guys that was prisoners. That was
In charge of guarding the dorm?
Yeah, guarding the guys. Not the dorm,
Oh,
but the guys that worked out in the field.
in the field, okay.
Yeah. In the dorms, there was nobody in the dorms. A free man came around once every hour to count.
So anything went,
And when he left,
all hell broke loose.
whatever you want to do, you do
So
it.
much different from whenever I was in prison because, I mean, I've been in places where there was low security as far as like you could do anything, especially in the satellite camps. You can do just about anything you want in a dorm. Guards come through every so often. When I got to the state prison, though, they didn't have as many cameras right away, but I remember at some point during RCC they started putting cameras everywhere. You know, it was really a lot harder for people to violate and get away with fighting and all those different things. I think, at least for the sake of the people who aren't tough, those cameras help out because it keeps, young kids from getting raped and people from getting stolen from and all those types of things. Prison's a hard environment. And unfortunately, if you're not built for it tough, you ain't going to make it. So I think some of those protections are good to have in place. This is Penitentiaries to Penthouses podcast. To the left of me, I got your best friend.
In real estate for all your real estate needs.
Speaking of real estate, if anybody out there has a home for sale that they think would be a potential flip opportunity, or you're just looking to get rid of one of those old family properties that you don't want to deal with anymore.
The dump.
Yeah, the dump. We want your dump.
Give us your dump.
We're number one and number two business.
Thank you.
And in front of us, we got brother, elder, master's degree, Georgia mountain runner, Arthur Rhodes. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think about Arthur, and I'm going to let him tell you about himself. But the reason I'm glad that he's here today, whenever I was at Rayburn Correctional Center, Mr. Arthur's one of the first people that I met. I've shared this before, but prior to going to the state prison, I was bouncing around from all the different satellite camps. There was no church. There was no college. There was no vocational. There was no sign language. There was none of that. So I got to the state prison. It was different, structured, a lot more strict, but in terms of like progress to change, it was a better environment. And so I got to Rayburn and I went on Wynyard. And so if I could say anything about when like if you had like you had like the ritzy part of town, the suburbs, and then you had the projects. Wynyard would be the projects of Rayburn. And so I was put on Wynyard. And Mr. Arthur was one of the first people I met. And I've said this before. Like, I grew up in church. I had a relationship with God as a kid. It was like the prodigal. I had to go sleep with the pigs and come back. And during that time, I was kind of conflicted. Like, man, see all these guys coming in and out of prison all the time. And I don't want to be like that. But the lifestyle I was living, even in prison, I was bound to come back. Well, this place had like a whole extra building detached from it. And it was a chapel. And Mr. Arthur got his bachelor's degree. Well, he's got his master's degree, but he got his bachelor's first from Angola, and they sent him to Rayburn as like a minister. So he and Pastor Jackson started a church there. And when I got to Rayburn, he and a couple other guys kept, hey man, come to church, come to church. Nah, I'm smoking Mojo. And after a little while, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go to church. I went to church a couple of times, and then I started feeling that tug, and God was talking to me, and I was like, you know what, I don't want to leave that life alone. I don't want to come back here. I seen guys like Mr. Arthur, guys like Pat, and a couple other guys that I've had on here, and then, other guys at the prison were doing educational things. They sounded intellectual. They were doing Toastmasters and JCs, speaking to people, giving presentations, leading programs, getting degrees, you name it. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And so anyways, I started going to church, and Elder Rhodes was a pastor there, and he preached all the time. And so I can honestly say this guy right here was a big part of who I am today, And he's the only pastor that I knew that stayed over there on Wynyard. All the other guys, they got out of Dodge. They pieced out and went to Snow Unit, and they got where it was tame, and they didn't have to worry about all the foolishness. But Mr. Arthur stayed in Windorm, and chaotic fights, stabbings, different things like that. And he stayed in there, and he had all the respect, and he did prayer circles every night, and just really was a positive influence in the dorm. So I don't want to steal your story, though, because I think I've done told too much. But if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what your childhood was like, what kind of led you to prison, and then we'll talk about your prison experience, and then what you're doing now today.
Yeah. Raised up in Holly Grove in Gerttown. I was born in Gerttown.
Man.
Raised up in Holly Grove in rough area, and I was a good baseball player, good football player. And
what school did you go to?
I went to Dunbar Elementary, but I went to Priestley.
Okay.
And that was a rough neighborhood as well. But just getting involved with guys around there led from one thing to another. I quit going to school because I wanted to help out with my mom because she wasn't doing well. But the first time I ever done anything wrong and brought it to her, she told me, I don't want that dirty money.
Mama knew.
Mom refused to take the money. She said, where you work at? Saying, I'm just hustling. Said, you ain't hustling no money and bringing me. I don't want it. My mom refused to take the money, and eventually I just started getting into the game, started doing things, started using drugs, and ultimately led to me pulling off a robbery, and I got shot in a robbery. I received 10 years and went to Angola at 20. I think I was 20.
That was the first Jose where you talked about that story.
That's the first time I went there, and all I had heard all kind of stories about Angola, and one guy, before I left, he told me before I left to Paris to go to Angola, he said, let me tell you something. He said, your mama going to send you some money. He said, but don't buy no candy and ice cream with your first money. He said, buy a knife. He said, you're going to need it.
Yeah.
He said, buy your knife. And that's what I did. I bought a knife,
Skittles, knife.
Yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's how it was.
Because guys was up there selling knives for a carton of cigarettes, and everybody had one.
Yeah.
So you was out of place if you didn't have one.
Right. So
not that I wanted to use it.
Yeah, but you just had to have it. Better to have it than not have it. So you would, so were the stories that they told, so you would have to buy the cigarettes in order to actually get it. So it's kind of like a little barter exchange, like I need some smokes, throw the smokes to the old arms dealer.
Yeah.
Were the stories as bad? So that guy told you to get a knife, but were the stories of Angola as bad as being in Angola? You know, it's like did it live up to the expectation?
Oh yes, it did. It did. I went there thinking that, man, it can't be all that. But after being there a while, every time you look around, you come out the dormitory and there was blood on the wall. I mean, like every week there was blood on the wall. Somebody then got jugged. Somebody got their head bust. You know, and at that time they was calling it the bloodiest prison in America.
Yeah.
And it lived up to that.
To that expectation.
Yeah, they were doing that. And I had 10 years. And I wanted to go home. I had to do with 6 years. And I told a guy, I said, I put a mask on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said I would cover my face with my sheet at night and pray.
Mm-hmm.
And when I take it off, I put my boot in my mouth. Like I'm about that. I'm ready for that.
Yeah.
You know, push come to shove, I had to do something, I'd do it.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to because I had seen men who had killed men, and they're still there now, today.
Yeah.
Still there. So that wasn't nothing I wanted.
You wasn't trying to catch an L on a 6-year sentence.
No, I wasn't trying to do that.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
So then you got released. You went back to New Orleans?
Went back to New Orleans. Just a matter of time. During that time, I wasn't thinking about, they didn't have a lot of stuff like what you saying, all the educational stuff. It was about survival when you went to Angola. You were just concerned with survival. There had other guys doing some good stuff, but I didn't feel like, me being so young at the age I was, that I could really just focus on that. My whole goal, I'm focused on survival. I'm going to survive and get out of this place.
Not dying and not killing.
Yeah, not dying and not killing.
That's right.
Yeah, and not being other than I was.
Yeah. So you went home.
How old are you whenever you got out?
27.
Okay.
27. Yep. So you went back to New Orleans. Did you get back into the same?
It wasn't, but when you first get out, you get a few months, you ready, you rolling, you doing all the right things.
You're on that pink cloud riding.
Yeah. And you're doing all the right things, and then bang, you hit it again. You back in it, and for long I was back in the prison. I got caught in a hotel with a whole bunch of drugs that I had, and they sent me back to prison with another 10 years.
That was your second 10-year sentence. So how much time did you do on that one?
10.
10? You did the flat?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you went back to Angola?
Went back to Angola.
Same dorm?
No, I just went all around. During that time, I was known then. I had
had the MO.
I wasn't the same person,
He wasn't Saint Arthur at the time. He was.
I wasn't just surviving. I was striving. I knew how it go, and that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Doing whatever it take, just out my mind, man. Just doing whatever it take, to get over, and I was kind of disappointed in myself. So my family would want to come see me. I took everybody off. It wasn't them. It was me. I was ashamed that I had come back to prison and disappointed these people again. And
you mad that you disappointed them, or you mad that you got caught?
I guess
both.
Yeah, you can say both.
So, now let me ask you a question. So it was probably in the 80s when you went back, right?
83.
All right. So when did the shift at Angola happen? Were you there during that time?
Yeah, the shift happened when I came back the next time.
So after
I went home after the 10 years.
Round 3.
Yeah, and a month before I got out, my mom died. I did the 10 years, and when I got out, my wife had divorced, and my daughter had grown up, and they were like, man, I'm lost.
That's on the 3rd round that all that happened?
Yeah. So I just did me. I just was doing me, man, just hustling, and I pulled off a robbery, me and a friend of mine, and I don't know how long he had been out, maybe a year, and we pulled off a robbery, and he got killed. We come out the place, and the police there, and he get killed, and miraculously, surrounded by everything and everybody. all of Jefferson Parish. God gets me out of there.
Really?
And I end up in California.
Okay.
But as I was going to California on the bus, I said, something just happened there miraculously. It wasn't because I was so slick or so smart, but for me to get out of there, something miraculously happened. I don't think I have the time to get into all the details of it, but God was involved in me getting out of that place.
Clearing a pathway for you.
Yeah, I heard the people talking. They were going to kill me as well.
Mm-hmm.
You don't go to Jefferson Parish and rob nothing and get away with it.
Word on the street is JP don't play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was true.
Yeah.
They killed him, and I went to Angola. No, after I went to the parish, I just began to.
So wait, you went to California. You escaped that. Went to California. They came and got you.
Yep, a couple of guys.
Marshals.
They called. They told them where I was at, and they came and got me one day. I was coming to my motel, and police just surrounded me.
So they extradited you back to Louisiana.
Yeah.
Did you have to stop in a California jail first?
Yeah, I was saying.
So how did you fit in not being a gang member?
No, nobody messed with me.
Okay.
You know, what I didn't like about it is just it was 4 stacks of beds, and the only one that you had.
Talk about
had to
skyscrapers,
slide out
huh?
There, you had to get all the way to the top to sit on your bed. The other one you had to slide in. So when they asked for extradition, you want to be extra. I said in a minute, right now, quick, in a hurry, just get me out of here.
Yeah.
But I never had no problem with the gang members. and all that.
Well, so then they extradite you back to Louisiana. You go to Jefferson Parish.
Yeah.
And then, so what did they hit you for on that?
It's
Armed robbery?
3 counts of robbery.
Okay.
3 counts of armed robbery.
And so how much time did they give you?
Ultimately, they started off with 238 because a man was kidnapped to go through the.
Oh, to get in?
No, a man was kidnapped and he drove me through.
Okay.
What this is, the police was all on the thing. It was all on the corner. A whole bunch of police was on the thing, and I grabbed a man.
Okay.
And he drove you out?
Yeah, he drove me right through there.
Oh.
And, you know, that's how I thought was miraculous as well because it's 3 o'clock in the morning. And he driving me out there, and they don't even stop him. I'm in the back of his van, and they don't even stop him.
Dang.
And I just drive through, and I said, man, that's not.
This is like 93, 94-ish?
Yeah.
So now you're in Jefferson Parish. They want to give you 200-something years.
No, they offered me 100 years.
Okay.
That's kind.
Yeah. They offered me 100 years. So ultimately, I went to trial. They gave me 238 years for 2 armed robberies and kidnapping, simple kidnapping. And then the judge called me back, and she said, you are a menace to society. You don't deserve to walk in a free society again. And she gave me life and 99 years. But at that time, I had begun to experience God in ways I've never experienced before.
Like how?
I mean, it's just nothing bothered me. It didn't bother me. I was at peace even while she was calling me those different names. And
You feel like you maybe had accepted the things that you done, and you knew, like you kind of like, okay, I've been living like this, and this is my lick.
You know, and that's why I felt, Scott. I felt like, man, this it. This is you, man. You deserved it. It is what it is. You know how we say that.
Yeah,
I say it is what it is. You know, you play. You know, and you just this is it for you.
Yeah.
But my concern was, I told God, I was praying. I said, I just want to know you. I wasn't worrying about life in 99 years.
You
really
done did
was.
enough time in prison.
Yeah, I wasn't worried about that.
Yeah.
I said, I just want to know you. And that's what it was. I went to Angola, and all the friends, they were looking for me to get back into what I was doing. I really was gambling and drugging, and they were looking for me. But I had a Bible, and I was telling them about Jesus. And they said, man, you need to freeze that, bro. You playing, man. Well, you got life in 99 years. You got to just ball till you fall, man. And all that kind of stuff. I said, no, man, I really experienced God, man. He said, yeah, we'll see. Let me see that. They said, let me see that Bible. You probably got a knife or some drugs in there, right? I said, no, man, it's real, man. And they took it with a grain of salt.
So, but they started seeing the change in you.
Oh yeah, they watched me. And to tell the truth, two of them ultimately
Came with you.
surrendered their life to Christ. I wasn't with them, but they did.
Yeah.
I guess they watched and they saw it.
They said, "Well, man, if Arthur can change."
And one of them had 100 years, and one of them had 199 years, 98 years. Both of them out now,
Really?
doing good.
Amen.
Yeah.
So whenever you have like a reputation that you have, and then you accept, I guess, the Lord, and then you go a different route, are there people like outside of just verbally pulling you to the other side, or they're like, do you physically have to worry about somebody coming after you because now, like, you're not on that side anymore, you're on the good side? Do you have to worry about
That was one
beef or anything like that?
That was one of my concerns when I got saved. That was one of my concerns because I had a couple of enemies. I had a couple of enemies there, and one had swore to, wherever we meet,
He was
like
gonna
that.
get something.
Yeah, he was gonna do something. But there's a scripture in the Bible say when a man ways please God, he make even his enemies be at peace with him. So one day I went down a walk. I went to Camp J at first and was working at Camp J.
You was in the blocks?
No, they had a dormitory where you go and you feed the guys. I was feeding the guys on the tip.
I got you.
And I went down a walk where this guy was, and he saw me, I saw him, and we were walking in the gym. I had my books, my Bible, and he was in law.
Oh, he's a law librarian?
Yeah, and I don't, it was messed up the way I approached him, but I did it. I called him. I dropped my books in the gym. Bang. He dropped his book. Bang.
Oh, it's like a cowboy scene right there.
Yeah.
It's like a duel.
And I went to him. I said, man, I apologize. I had hurt him pretty bad.
Yeah.
He said, man, I'm finna tell you the same thing. I accept your apology. I was out there bad.
Did he get saved before that too?
Yeah, he was saved.
See, look how.
Yeah, he was saved too.
You ain't know that?
No, I didn't know.
But y'all talked about it.
Yeah, we talked about it after. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Because that type of stuff don't really happen in prison. I remember even whenever I had made my shift, like an enemy is an enemy. And, it's hard to do the amends in prison. You really got to swallow your pride. You really got to put your quote-unquote manliness to the side to do something like that. And that act of amends is, you don't see it too often in prison because it's like a grudge is a grudge. People in there, they live by that and they die by that. And, because some people would look at that as like a weakness.
Yeah, and grudges are easy to hold too.
And so, but the fact that they both did it, that's just a testament to God.
Especially like in prison, when somebody do you something, it's expected for you.
Retaliate.
Yeah.
If not, you showing a sign of weakness.
Yeah,
and
so
that's
to
not
get
what
back,
you do. Yeah.
otherwise other people will get you, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of like the
You
code.
got to be the first one to move.
Yeah. But we apologized, we hug each other, and we was good from that point on. But I eventually, they started a Bible college. This is why I seen the change. The big yard.
Burrow was there at this time?
This is who brought about this change.
Burrow.
So, yeah, when I was on there the last time, they started a Bible college. And out of this one, I really began to know that God was doing in my life. They had about 1,000 men or more. No, 300 men that was being selected to be full-time in the prison to go to Bible college. They didn't need but 30 out of 300. And my name was in the hat. So I didn't think, I said, no, this not going to happen, man. They ain't going to select me. I'm Arthur Rhodes, man. I don't have, these are the guys who...
Cream of the crop.
Yeah, these are the cream of the crop. They work for the warden. They've been there for
Trustees.
ages. Yeah, they trustees. They do a lot of good stuff. And out of them 300, they chose me in the first class to go to Bible college.
And what year was this?
1997.
Okay.
1997.
So they picked you.
Yeah, and I'm saying, man, and even they were saying it, man, how they pick Arthur Rhodes over me, you know, and stuff like that. I'm this and I'm that and I'm that, and I really begin to think about it. I said, man, God is doing something in your life, and you need to just stick with it, see what it was. And I went to the college, and about a year after I got there, there was a guy named Macklemore. He came in there and he was talking. And my daughter had moved to Stone Mountain, Georgia. And I was telling the group about it, and he stepped in and said, man, I'm from Stone Mountain. I said, yeah. He said, man, they got a
Track around
the mountain, man. He says 5 miles around, man. Maybe one day you can run around there. I said, man, I got life in 99 years. He said, so what? And it maybe a month later, I was praying. I always prayed in the dorm, and the Lord, I did like Sarah. The Lord said, "You gonna run around Stone Mountain?" I said, "Man, that's a joke," you know. But I began to think about that. I knew that God had told me that, and I began to think about it, and I began to tell guys in the prison.
I heard it.
Yeah, some of them say amen, and some of them were saying, yeah, right.
Yeah.
You've been here 3 times, and you've been a mess up 3 times. You're going to pick up the Bible, and these people going to let you go. You just rob all these people in the street. I said, no, the road, that ain't going to work. But I kept saying it, even when I got to Rayburn. Mm-hmm. The lady told me, you'll never leave Angola again, my judge. Mm-hmm. And when they asked for someone to go, after I graduated with my bachelor's degree, they asked for someone to go to WCI.
Mm-hmm. Which is Rayburn.
Yeah. And I told a guy about it, and he said, man, I wouldn't go to WCI at gunpoint. I said, what are you talking about? He said, man, you don't know where you're going. I said, well, I made a promise to go. Wherever he sent me, I'll go. So I went, and the first night I said, maybe the dude was right. They treated me so bad. Was Tanner the warden? Yeah.
Tanner was the warden?
No, it was another guy. Oh. But they treated me so bad.
Who's they? Everybody? Or
the administration? We got there late, around 12 o'clock at night, and they had us behind the gym.
Oh, boy.
Oh, they talked to us so bad. And I had a big old sack to carry, and I couldn't carry it, full of books, all my seminary books. And one of the men told me, he said, you gonna carry it, or else you go on the block. I said, sorry, well, I hate to disappoint you. I said, I'm going to the block. I can't carry that. He said that I went and looked outside. They didn't have nothing to push
cart?
it on. No.
Yeah.
When he said that and we was going outside, guess what? A cart was out there.
God provided the cart.
At 12-something at night. And I went to Wynyard.
Yeah.
When everybody started moving, again, the Lord told me to stay there.
That's where I found him.
Everybody tell me to go to the honor dorm, go to sleep one. But I felt like that's what God wanted me to do, is stay there and just be a witness to those men.
Yeah.
You know, that you can change. They had heard things about my past and things I did, and that I was from Angola and stuff like that. So they ultimately have they tend to have a respect for men that's been in Angola and don't have no stuff, no bad stuff.
No bad
about
jacket. Yeah.
So they respected me. Some I had some problem with, but for the most part, everything went well. I got there. Warden Cook came, got me. I got there, and he said,
Warden Cook was the
chaplain at the time.
The chaplain, then became warden of programs and medical, and then his wife Andy. She's no longer with us, but she was the director of education.
Yeah.
Okay, but go ahead. What were you saying?
And he told me, man, you ought to get you a master's degree. I said, master's degree? I said, sure. I said, that's kind of rough.
That's serious, Warden.
Yeah, but he said, I have confidence in you. And I put in to get the master's degree, and a lot of volunteers paid for it.
Yeah, because they
paid for me to get my master's degree. And that was a great accomplishment, because he told me himself, he said, man, I believe you're going to get out of here. He told me. He said, you're going to get out of here. And again, I got a life and 99-year sentence. So I preach, teach, taught college classes and stuff like that. But I really love going to see them guys when they got in trouble, when they was in the blocks and stuff. I think I came
Yeah,
see
you
you
came
in
to
the
see
block.
me.
Yeah, he been in trouble too. Yeah. Yeah. And I would
He
go
come
and
down
see
there with
him.
his Bible in his hand. What you got going on? Yeah, he did that all the time.
And I would go to like the blocks and, because when I was in my mess, I stayed in the blocks. I went to Camp J when it first opened. The first year it opened, I was in there because I didn't want to work.
That's a
you
rough
know?
place too.
Yeah, picking cotton. I didn't want to work.
Yeah.
So this is what God had me going at, going back to the place
We
where I
started.
come from. I remember a story in the Bible that talks about this man, after God healed him and he wanted to follow him, Jesus, and Jesus told him, say, go back where you come from. So I knew that I came from those cells. I came from being like those guys. So I always went back there. And this is a story that I knew it was nothing but God. I went back there, and it was maybe 2 years before I actually come home. And there was a guy, he saying, Mr. Arthur, that's what they call me, Mr. Arthur. He said, man, look, all due respect. He said, man, you got a master's degree. You're an intelligent man. You got respect from inmates and free people. He said, why don't you get you a job working in a law library and figure a way out of here? We all be talking about you, man, how faithful you is, how you keep coming to us about Jesus, how you pray with us. He said, man, won't you get in the law library? I said, man, look, I didn't follow Jesus to get out of prison. I met him. And because I met him, I wanted to know more about him. I said, that sounds true. I got life in 99 years. I don't know about you, but I did this. I committed these crimes. I repeatedly, career criminal. That was my
M.O.
Yeah, I was a career criminal. But I said, I began to walk away. And the Spirit of God told me to go back. And I told him, I said, man, but let me tell you something. If God want to get me out of here, he'll change the law just for me. And he looked at me. I said, I'm going to see you tomorrow. And I left. And it was maybe a year or so later, a law changed. A law change.
Did you speak it into existence?
A law change.
What do you remember? Which one it was?
It was saying that they couldn't give you a life sentence for nonviolent crimes.
Correct.
And
So
all-
yours was just robbery,
the one robbery and 3 drug charges.
right? So they dismissed the kidnapping.
Yeah, the kidnapping, they say that was double jeopardy. So
Just
they-
made
Right.
a friend.
Yeah, they got rid of that.
Because you didn't be like driving, right?
No,
Yeah.
I
Like, hey,
didn't
man,
even have a gun.
I need
Yeah.
a ride.
You committed a robbery without a gun?
No, I had lost
real
it.
gangster.
I
Danny
lost-
Oceans.
No, I lost it, right?
Yeah,
I
no, I'm
lost
with
it
you.
when,
I'm with you,
in
yeah.
the scuffle.
Yeah.
But he drove me through there. I was behind him in the seat, holding his shirt. And he knew I didn't have him because I had a scuffle with him
Yeah.
and put him in the car,
Right.
in the truck, in
Right.
the van at least. But, man,
So the law.
the law changed. And when the law changed, it said you can't give a man life without,
Possibility of parole.
you got to have a violent crime with that.
Right.
And they had took all these charges, nothing but drug charges, to give me life. And I was the only one that the thing fit perfectly.
Really?
I was the only one that had a life sentence from 3 drug charges. So as I said, I was the only one, and God changed the law. It was just for me. It was just for me. And when I got ready to go back, one dude who had did finagle some stuff to get out on that thing, he had to do some finagle. It didn't fit him perfectly. But a lawyer, they did something and he got out. But when I went back, he said, man, the judge you going to, that's the hardest judge they got there.
Jefferson Parish.
Yes, he
The
said,
final boss.
Yes, he said they call her all kind of bad
Yeah,
names.
yeah,
I don't even want to say them. And I said, man. I trust God, man. He brought me this far. So I had a friend. He's in the federal joint now. I didn't know he was a big man in the drug gang.
Uh-huh.
But he had been to Raven. I led him to the Lord at Raven.
Yeah.
He said, man, I'm going to get you a lawyer. He said, man, I'm going to get you a lawyer. And he did it. He went to the lawyer, and the lawyer said, okay. And this is one of the most renowned lawyers in New Orleans and Jefferson Parish. Everybody knew him.
Who's
Everybody
that?
wanted him. I can't think his name right now, but he's well known.
Right.
And I was praying, Scott, actually. I mean, I was praying, and God told me I don't need no lawyer. And I told him on the phone when God told me, he said, man, you lost your mind. He said, you've been locked down for 25 years and 7 months. He said, man, you lost your mind, man. You need a lawyer. You forgot who you are. You forgot all the things you did. I said, man, I know the voice of God. And, man, he told me I don't need no lawyer. He said, man, look, I don't want to talk to you. And he hung the phone up. Wouldn't even answer my calls. And then one day he answered my call. He said, man, I got to respect your faith. He said, I got to respect your faith. He said, I'm going to be in court. He had been coming, Palmer had been coming. And when I went back to court, that lawyer was there, who he was hiring, but he was representing another guy. And he went before me. And, man, this guy had a smooth tongue, and I began to think at that moment, man, you missed it.
What did I miss out on?
Yeah, I missed out. This dude here is
He's
smooth.
official.
Yeah, he's real.
Nice.
And he had a wrap up with everybody in the court. They respected him. But, man, that judge told him, denied. She denied the guy he was representing. And I came next, and they was telling her, I had people wanting to talk. She said, I don't want to talk to nobody. See, even him, he wanted to talk. She said, I don't want to talk to nobody. And she called my name and didn't even look up at me and just went to going through papers. And she said, Mr. Rhodes, at this time, she told the lady to go check on something. And they come back. Said, Mr. Rhodes, at this time, I'm going to take this life sentence from you. It's illegal. And said, they're going to leave you with 299 years. She said, I'm going to take and run both of those 99 years together. And she said, good luck, Mr. Rhodes. I said, oh, man, what just happened to God? And I was smiling next to the guy that was with me. And when we began to walk out, he said, man, are you Hannibal Lecter? I said, what you talking about? He said, lady just gave you 99 years and you smiling. I said, you just don't know. I said, I'm probably going to beat you home.
Uh-huh.
And there was
That made you parole eligible?
Yeah, that made me immediately parole eligible.
Yeah.
And it was months later, there was a guy who he well known for helping dude with parole. He told me he would help me.
Who,
I don't want
Keith?
to call his name. Yeah, but he wasn't there. But, man, I began to see this God for what it really was.
Uh-huh.
God wanted to be glorified in this.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't get no lawyer, and the guy was willing to pay for him. And now I didn't need no lawyer to go
To court.
to the parole board.
Yeah, you don't need one there neither.
I gave him my resume. It was like a phone book. You know, the things I had did in the 25 years I had been
Your package.
here. Yeah, I mean, I was doing these things and teaching and preaching and going to school, getting all these different things before I even had a date.
Yep.
Before I had a parole date. And another thing I kept doing, I kept running. I kept telling people I was going to run around Stone Mountain, Georgia. I went back to Angola, and they would ask me, still going to run around Angola? I said, yeah.
He used to tell me that, and I said, you going to run? I think I even used to JPay you.
That's right.
I used to send him emails when I left. I said, you going to run around Georgia?
That's right. That's what he used to call me.
Uh-huh, Georgia.
Stone Mountain,
Stone
Georgia.
Mountain, Georgia,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I kept running. And ultimately, when I went on a parole board, 3 warden was in there. Warden Cook happened to be there from his Cook thing.
Yeah.
They dedicated that building to her.
Yeah.
And he happened to be there the same day I went up for parole. And he
That's a
said, can I
miracle.
talk for you, man? I said, nobody know me better. So he talked for me, and then the head warden, Warden Tanner, and Big Warden Tanner said, Arthur Rhodes coming in there first. And I mean, Warden Beckham talked for me, Warden Cook talked for me. I had 13 family members in there, and they granted me parole.
Out of there.
They granted me parole, and I mean, it just, and before I left, man, you know, you don't go immediately. I was sitting at a table, and I know it was Thursday because that's what we eat on Thursday, hot dogs.
Yeah.
And the guy had told about God to change the law for me.
Yeah.
He was sitting at the table with me. And we was eating, and I said, man, you know what? I go home tomorrow. He said, man, I'm happy for you, you know. I said, God did just what he said he was going to do. He changed the law just for me. He said, I'm happy for you. And he got up, tried to hurry up and run. I got up and went behind. He was crying.
Really?
Yeah, he was crying. He hugged me, and he was crying. I said, man, God is real.
Yeah.
I said, trust me, he's real, and I think he's trying to show you that.
Yeah.
And he just walked off. But, man, my whole story is about him, Scott.
Yeah.
You saw it. You know, it's just not no prison thing. You saw it. And since I've been out, I have one daughter. She stay in Georgia.
What year did you come home?
I came home in 2019.
Right. Yep. So you got one daughter.
And she was having problems with her kidneys. I started off working for Warden Cook's son. I was doing what you're doing, help remodeling houses and stuff like that. I didn't know much about that.
Yeah.
He taught me everything. And then ultimately I got a job with TSAP, and I was a behavioral health counselor.
Yeah.
Paying nice money.
Yeah.
But my daughter got sick, so everything had to be put on the side. For 2.5 years, she had problem with her kidney. She had got a kidney transplant, and it went bad. So for 2.5 years, I've been catching. I was catching so many planes. I knew every pilot.
Yeah.
You know, going back and forward to be with her. Mm-hmm. And about last year, she got a kidney transplant.
Amen.
And I was up there.
Good.
I was at Georgia when she got the kidney transplant. So that's kind of where I've been. I've been like a family man. My sister been having problems. You know, I try to help out with her. And
Well, tell us about your experience running around Stone Mountain.
oh, I did. She was. That's before she got really bad. I flew to Georgia, and this is amazing too, because there was a guy that named David. He had came to prison, and he didn't know nothing about prison. He was just square. You knew him, David Wartenberg.
Oh yeah.
And
From Slidell.
Yeah. And he said when I first talked to him, he thought I was about to mess with him about his stuff.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I asked him, I said, man, you know God? He said he was coming to the laundry to get his clothes. Second day there.
Yeah.
He said, no, I don't know God. He said, I know about him. I said, you want to know him? He said, yeah. So I got him in the faith-based class, and I got him in my group at the table that I sat at. And for a year, he sat under me, and I told him about running around Stone Mountain, and I told everybody. And then when I got out, he heard it. I forgot where you stayed. He stayed about 50 miles from where I was.
Uh-huh.
He came there. He said, man, I had to see this here for myself. He said, man, you ran around Stone Mountain yet? I said, I'm setting it up right now to get a ticket to go to Stone Mountain. He said, first thing first. He said, when people retire, they give them a watch. He took this out of the box and gave me this.
That a Rolex?
He said, this is not no cheap watch. He said, so you retired from your criminal life.
Yeah.
And he said, let me tell you something. I'm going to buy you a ticket to Georgia, round-trip ticket to Georgia. This man bought me a round-trip ticket to Georgia, first class. I was in the first seat in the plane, Delta Airline. He said, man, God does it right, you know. So,
yeah. So, what do you think your greatest challenge was coming home from prison? You know, a lot of people struggle with maybe addiction, finances, connecting with family, technology. What would you say your greatest challenge? I mean, 25 years straight plus 40 altogether, however long. I'd imagine that there were some challenges. So, what was your top challenge?
again, it had to be finances. You know, I'm a pretty independent person, and I just wanted to be able to take care of myself and be able to help my daughter as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, stuff like technology that came to play as well, but that wasn't a major thing. And I always also need to learn patience. You know, that was my greatest. I wanted stuff to happen now. I wanted, you know, that's the reason I stayed in prison so much. I didn't have patience, but again, I had a lot of people that supported me and encouraged me, and challenge still is finances, you know. But I'm doing okay.
Well, that's good.
Okay.
And you're still going back into the prisons.
Oh,
So look, what we're gonna do today is we're gonna speak something into existence. Mr. Arthur's got an opportunity to go work in the prison system in Mississippi with Mr. King, who was on here, with Burkane and his entourage. And Mr. Arthur's been tied up, but I think in the future, when it's time, when he's got time and he can do it, I think it's going to be a good opportunity, because who better to lead the prison system than people that have been in the system, that know how the system works, that know how, and done live through the actual transformation of the bloodiest prison in the United States.
Old school and new school.
So I can't think of anybody in the world that would do a better job than you.
George is a real good friend of mine,
Yep.
even at Rayburn.
Mm-hmm.
I liked him because a lot of people didn't want to go to the block, but George was gung-ho. I said, we're going to the block.
He told us some stories about his
said,
experience
"Let's
in the
go."
block.
Yeah, he said, let's go. You know, let's go. And them guys, sometimes they wasn't nice. Man, I didn't say this, but one time I got on the tier, and the guy from way in the back, he said, who that is, man? I said, that's Arthur Rhodes, that's the preacher. Man, tell the preacher get off here. We tired of this. Ever since he come here, all he want to talk about Jesus. We want to see some women, man. Get off this tier, man. Get off this tier, man. We want to see some women. I said, man. But I went back there and seen him and talked with him.
Yeah. Well, George was telling us a story. He was on a tier one time, and dude was like talking about he remember George from 1984, and he was calling him a punk. He's like, that punk was for me. That's my punk. George is like, he's like, man, I got this Bible in my hand, but I'm really ready to put this thing down. You know, dude calling him out his name, crossing lines. He kept his cool, but I'd imagine you see some wild stuff in the cell blocks, man.
I could go on and on about going back there, but again, that's what God led me. Again, when I was in Angola, I used to see cells that I used to be in. I literally saw a young guy in the same cell where I used to be in, sitting in the same spot where I used to sit, and having the same kind of hair that I used to have. And I'm saying, man. I said, man, you know, I sat there in 1976 where you sitting there right now. And I had a head of hair just like you have. I said, man, I don't tell you nothing.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
And to play
change.
with.
People change.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. You sitting right where I used to sit.
Yep.
And, you know, I use that to minister to him.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, Mr. Arthur, I appreciate you coming on here today. You dropped a load of gems on us.
An amazing story.
Amazing story. I can say this: if people watch this and they don't understand that change is real, that people who are considered the most heinous members of society, when they have an authentic experience with God, their life don't transform. If you don't get that from listening to this story, then you need to wrap it up.
Yeah, well, we don't know what else to do.
We don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
You know?
And, you know, just in closing, I have no inkling, no desire whatsoever to commit another crime. I never will.
I know you won't.
I haven't used a drug, drank alcohol, or anything since I've been home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even have a desire for it.
Yeah, that's powerful.
You know,
And I know you're going to continue to track that, and you're going to continue to do good, and you're going to spend the next 30, 40 years on this planet living out God's purpose for you.
I'm going to Rayburn. I've been going back and forth to Rayburn. I went to Hunt. You know, I go back there and do carols, and then I went with going to Sunday to Rayburn and preach.
And then next Saturday you're gonna be
with you.
with me, at Rayburn. So I look forward to that.
So,
Well, thank you for coming on, Mr. Arthur. We'll try to get you back eventually, and keep doing your thing.
all right. Thank y'all for inviting me.
Thanks for
anytime.
coming.
Appreciate it.
All right.